Hi, this is your instructor Daniel Chang. This is for game 220, and this week we're going to discuss and do a demo on character progression within video games. So, we're going to first talk about story and what character progression within a story means. A lot of times it has to do with the character's arc, so that means that the character's going to start off one way at the beginning of the story, and then they're going to learn something, right? They're going to learn a lesson along the way, and that's going to change them, and they're going to be a completely different type of person because now they've learned something at the end of the story, right? So there's like a progressive arc. Sometimes it could be a regressive arc, right? Like I've seen parodies of Christmas Carol where it was Blackadder's Christmas Carol, and he starts off as a very altruistic, very friendly, loving person, and then by the end, after being visited by three ghosts, he ends up becoming like a Scrooge, right? So, so you could play around with that as well, especially for your villainous characters, right? If you know your villain's going to end up being super evil at the end, perhaps they start off kind of sympathetic, and then you have an understanding as to why they feel the way they do, or the events that happen to them, lessons learned along the way. But yeah, let's take a look at some of these characters that we know from pop culture first. First here we got Ahsoka. Here she is as a young Padawan, right? Very light, not wearing much to protect herself, but very simple at the same time. And she's young, so you could tell her age. And she has a lot to learn here, right? And then here's as she appeared in Star Wars Rebels, and now she's become a warrior. She's a woman, and a lot more powerful. And spoilers, but in the new Ahsoka series, now we see her all decked out in white, right? Often referred to by the fans as Ahsoka the White, which is a reference to Gandalf, where in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf at one point is thought to have died, and then he comes back as Gandalf the White, and he's a more enlightened version of himself. And yeah, when Ahsoka comes back as Ahsoka the White, she seems to be more at peace with herself, her past, and she's able to do a lot more. She's become more powerful at the end. So the kind of progression we're seeing here is both age as well as spiritual, right? So she's gets more mature, learns a lot more, gains wisdom, and also in some Jedi way becomes a more spiritual being at the end of the story here, right? The next here, we're just seeing this Aloy character from Horizon Zero Dawn, and at the beginning she's kind of dressed out in simple leather tribal clothing, and at the end she's all decked out in armor. Sort of the highest, most protective armor that also gives the character more abilities, and this is commonly what is used for character progression within a video game is gear progression. So you'll see a character usually start off rather simple, and then as you move along in the game, you can purchase more elaborate and more decked out armor until sort of the end of the game you're all decked out with all this metal and shiny bits and probably gold and whatever else, right? Your weapons also look more awesome as you go, right? Over here we can see both age progression, right? We've got Anakin Skywalker as a child, as a as a teenager, right? And then as a adult that has completely been pulled into the dark side of the Force. So he's turned Sith, and then at the end he's just this husk of his former self, but evil as heck and really powerful and feared by everybody, right? So this is a character's spiritual regression, right? The things he learns are bad things, right? And he's also been corrupted in this story. So there's age progression, and then there's a spiritual regression within this character. But then, as far as gear goes, his gear looks improved, more and more as you go through the story, right? Over here we've got also age, right, difference for Arya Stark here. She becomes more of a warrior and a fighter, and as she enters into womanhood, in this instance, she gets some supernatural powers, and is able to shapeshift or face shift, and then she's this very wise warrior. So it goes from like this fearful, timid look that she has at the beginning, right? Here, her father's dead, and she's on her own, so she's also scared here, right? But at the end, she's very confident, a very skilled warrior. She could take care of herself. Classic biblical stories also use these character arcs. David as a boy, right, versus the giant Goliath here as a child, and then David as an adult. He's King David now, grown and hopefully wiser and stronger. Over here, we've got this anime from Death Note, Light. His character progression is actually a regression as well, as he's corrupted by the Death Note, and as he signs off people to writes their names down in the book to kill them. He starts becoming a villain towards the end. You can also see his colors of his school uniform being kind of this light beige, and then towards the end he's an adult here, older, and wearing like a business suit, right? So he's changed. I'll also, look at your face, the evil glowing eyes, right? So here's Ellie. In the first game, she's timid, scared, tries to act tough, but is really vulnerable. Kind of see that in her eyes as well. Towards in the second game, she's actually an adult at this point, tatted up. She's seen some shit and got all the scars and bruises to prove it, and her face, she's just like more jaded, more grizzled, and eventually becomes a villain. Here's Frodo, right? Frodo is also regresses in the story as well, because he's holding the one ring that is corrupting him. So this is him at the beginning of the journey with all his gear all out, and then at the end of his journey he's burnt, right? He's just like so close to being corrupted or just dying by the end, and you can see he's dirtied up, his clothes here, and the ring and the precious and all that kind of stuff is corrupting him. What else has the ring corrupted, but also Schmeagol, right? So here, not just a change in his clothing and facial expression and age, but a complete transformation of degrading from Schmeagol all the way into Gollum, right? So this would be an example as well of character arc and character change, where he doesn't really learn anything at the end, right? At the end, jumps into the volcano to get his precious and dies, right? Harry Potter here, he goes from boyhood to manhood, right? So in the first films, he's in his school uniforms a lot more, and as he kind of grows up, he becomes more of an adult. Now he's out of the uniforms and wearing more casual wear that an adult would wear, right? So there you go. Another type of character change would be transformation. So this is where you'll see in Jekyll and Hyde stories. Here we've got the Incredible Hulk. We can see this in werewolf stories as well. A character that has an alter ego where they can transform. A lot of superheroes also undergo this kind of thing as well. So character transformation, a full body transformation, or maybe even a transformation at will. But they'll be different from the beginning of the story, before they transform, to the end of the story where they are fully transformed. Right. Here we've got sort of a character that grows in maturity over time. So this is Jax from Mass Effect 2. When you first meet her, she's just kind of wild criminal, type, completely shaved head, tatted up, a real baddie. But she's on your team, so she's kind of like a anti-hero kind of baddie, right? But she's cool and has a great power and, kind of this like F 'em kind of attitude. But then in the third game, she kind of grows up, and now she's a teacher. She's teaching classes at the Citadel, and you can see, she grew her hair out. Still punk, right? Still punk rock, but she's grown her hair out. She still has the tats, but she's covered up a lot more now. Sort of a cross between military and sort of punk leather, right? So it just shows that as the character changes, their costume's going to reflect more of how they have matured or feel inside. Their taste will also change as well, right? So, but essentially, she's still the same character. It's just she's kind of found closure for certain things in Mass Effect 2, right? Jaime Lannister is a great character that undergoes a change. He has to be humbled by being taken prisoner, getting his hand cut off, learns a thing or two, and then becomes kind of a more likable character rather than this guy at the very beginning where he's just awful, willing to push children out of windows and kill beloved heroes. And then at the end here, he's kind of older, more mature, changed his hairstyle a bit more, and of course he's missing his hand now. Now, missing hands is a big thing, right? Missing limbs is like a big thing for character progression in stories. It's a visual change. You'll see this often within mythology, and as carried over by George Lucas as well with Luke Skywalker. Here we've got Jinx as an orphan child, kind of innocent, kind of naive about the world. I like how her costume here is kind of asymmetrical. She's just a street rat, right? Doesn't have everything put together yet. And then this is her getting older and growing into her own, and she's got this sort of piratey pistol here, and obviously more mature, more womanhood. So her costume gets a little bit more sexy, and then over here she's just a complete psycho, as she's got the shark missile weapons, and her expression's just a little bit more demented and all that. So character maybe regression, but you could see the change from she's not that orphan girl anymore, right? Bruce Willis in Die Hard, John McClane. This is John McClane at the beginning of Die Hard. He's a cop, but he's visiting his wife at a party. They're going through a separation, and you could see he's trying to be as civil as possible, but sure enough, by the end, this is like his true self of grizzled, smoking the cigarette. His tank top's just burnt and dirtied and bloodied. He's got scars on him. He's 5 o'clock shadow now. Yeah, so a complete change in the character by the end. So this is like maybe just a change in attitude, right? Cora, at the beginning of the story, she's not a spiritual person. Pretty put together though, as far as like her hairstyle, her costume, well put together. By the end here, you could see her hair's messed up a bit more. It's got these lines here that kind of show like dirtied up costume. A lot of people have tried to kill her by this point, and over here she's kind of found her spiritual side as well, and become a more enlightened being. So an image like this right here on the left to contrast the this beginning version of herself can definitely show her character progression through the story, right? Luke Skywalker, as we talked about here before, where he's a young farm boy, innocent, light clothing, he grows into adulthood as a Jedi. His hand over here with the glove on it, that's been cut off. That's a cyborg hand by this point. He's wearing all black by this point. You're kind of like, why is he wearing all black? Well, he's, more serious now as an adult. And then him as a grizzled old man that has since foregone the Force. You could see, he's no longer trying to hide the cyborg hand anymore, right? He's got no reason to wear the glove on there to make other people feel more comfortable, right? This guy doesn't care anymore. Mandalorian. This is a progression in terms of his gear as well. He actually the entire show for the first season definitely felt like a video game. He's taking missions. He's getting rewards. He's using those rewards to upgrade his armor. And of course, by the end there, he's got all full Beskar armor, nice and shiny, and much more improved than the stuff from, the very beginning. So this is progression with upgraded gear, right? Over here, this is kind of showing a character's attitude as well. This is this is a young Tom Hardy playing a young Jean-Luc Picard in a very bad movie. But yeah, so you could see that Picard, when he was a cadet, he was cocksure of himself. He was braggadocious and confident here, right? Over here, he's a more matured adult, having learned the lessons from his youth. He's become more of a diplomat. He's able to find the compromise, and then he gets kidnapped by the Borg and gets turned into one of the Borg. They basically violated his his being. They used all the information in his brain to take out Starfleet, and he was zombified by the Borg, and kind of did their bidding for a while as Locutus here. And then this is him having gone through that experience all those years ago. the pain of that still haunts him, but now he's an old man, and then he's got new problems because as you get older in life, the authority and people just don't really pay attention to you as much, and people don't really listen to you when you're trying to warn them that there's some big dangerous thing happening. People just think, oh, you're just imagining things or whatever it is. And lastly, we got Ryu here as a young man, and this is showing age, where him as a young man, white headband, clean shaven. Him as an old man, grizzled, dirtied up, arm bandages here, ripped up black belt here, and also worn on the edges. Right, got the beard, got scars, got scars all over him, got some bruises, been through some time. Doesn't really take care of his hair or manicuring himself at all anymore, right? So there you go. There's these are just a few examples. I'm sure there are more of character progression and arcs and how we can show them visually on a character. Um, you know, one last this has less to do with visuals, but other ways that character arcs are shown. A lot of times they're done when you have a pairing of characters. So if you've got, like, say, two main characters, like a buddy cop movie or even a rom com. So, like, for example, in a rom com, the characters need to start off hating each other because that's how you show the arc. Because at the beginning they both hate each other. At the end, now they're madly in love, right? 3 days ago, I loathed you. I used to dream about you getting hit by a cab or poisoned. Oh, that's nice, you know. So it's a line you would see in a rom com, right? And then when it's kind of like a buddy movie, there's oftentimes sort of like the first half you're seeing like maybe a fish out of water, where you're seeing one person's point of view, right? And then at some point in time, there's a counter change, and you go into the other person's side of the story, and maybe the power dynamic also changes. Like, say, for example, you know, one's a city cop and one's like a country cop, and the country cop knows better, when they're in the country, and the city cop knows better when they're in New York, right? But in this instance here, I have Toy Story as an example. This is Woody telling Buzz in the first Toy Story, "You are a toy. You are a child's plaything." Because at this point in time, Buzz thinks he's a space ranger, and he doesn't realize he's a toy, right? And then there's a counter change in the second movie. So in the second movie here, we've got this point where they find Woody, and they're like, "We got to get you out of here, Woody." And Woody's like, "No, I'm gonna stay. They're gonna put me in a museum, and look, I was part of something bigger. I was like in a kids TV show and things like that." And Buzz has to, at this point, remind Woody, like, "No, you're not a collectible. You're a toy. You're a child's plaything. That's more important, right?" So now the tables have turned, and now Buzz has to remind Woody um, that he's a toy, right? So that's a really cool thing to show within the story. But it's harder to show that visually. It's just like mostly through the dialogue and the acting. But what we're going to do, at least as an exercise. Now we can explore the other stuff maybe next week. We're going to have 2 weeks on this assignment. This week, what I'm going to do as the demo is to just show like a progression of change by, it's a gear, the gear changes, right? The armor set and maybe weapons can get upgraded. And that's a lot closer to what you would see in a lot of modern RPGs. Um, Elements like this, right? So at the beginning of a story, or at the beginning of the video game, you're kind of in, I don't know, leather, plain clothes, cloth, right, canvasy stuff, and then halfway through the game, you start acquiring some light armor, and then by the end of the game, you're just all decked out in the fanciest, heavy armor as possible, right? Um, you can see here as well, right? There's a progression in armor as this person goes through the story. Other MMOs like this is Knights of the Old Republic MMO, and yeah, you can see at the beginning it's a bit more plain, and then you kind of get into something that's more familiar territory, and then at the end you're gonna need to give the player something that is a lot more decked out, right? A lot more, cool. Like this is stuff that it's like, that's why I've been playing this game for 120 hours, right? Um, so that's the idea behind behind the exercise. Just upgrading in terms of gear, character level progression in terms of gear, right? So here's concept art that has been made as far as how the gear gets progressed. So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to be showing. It's the most common uh, of showing a character arc within a game. I know it's less cool than like story and interchange and spiritual stuff and all that stuff I was talking about before. I just wanted you to keep those things in mind because they could play a factor in some of this stuff, like visually, as you go along. Because it's not just a matter for a Jedi to just get more armor, let's say, right? This Jedi is also a spiritual person. So how would you show that? So you would have to look up clerical, cleric clothing and arm, things like that. So this person becomes like a fighting monk as opposed to just your average soldier, right? So do keep these things in mind as you progress, and they will affect the style of the armor as it progresses as well, right? So there you go. Those are the examples I have to give. Um, so what I'm gonna do is I drew this for Inktober earlier uh, earlier in this week, and I thought all y'all should have at this point a character design ready to go. So why not just use that as a starting point, right? So what I did was I brought it into Photoshop and I kind of, you want to make space so that you can have like three of these, right? So let's see, Control J. I'm just gonna put them next to one another and make sure I have room for three of these on this image here. Gonna scoot it here. Okay, cool. Um, the things that I don't want to contend with on this character design, though, the foreshortening of that arm, I don't want to be fighting the foreshortening. So um, I'm going to, well, first off, I'm going to reduce the opacity of this stuff down here. So this is kind of what I'm going to trace over. It's okay because I'm tracing over my own work. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just copying and pasting the head because I know I'm going to keep that. and then I just started drawing, and so this is just me doing like a simplified study here on just like what she would look like without all that costuming on there. So this is my mannequin, right? And one thing I'm going to change on this mannequin is I'm going to lower that arm down here so that I don't have to deal with all that foreshortening. I'm still going to keep the shoulder up because I do like the contrapposto that's happening here where it's this shoulder being up, so that means that this hip on the right hand side here is going to go down. So the weight is put on the left hip, and that's the counter posture here. Right. So that's going to be my pose for all three characters, right? And I'm just going to use this as my template to to move forward here. So I'm just going to uh, select these two here, and I'm just going to group it maybe, and I'll duplicate that group, and then I'm just going to bring it over here. Cool. And I'm just going to duplicate that group. And I'm going to bring that over here. Perfect. Now, I'm just leaving that head there as a guide, but her hair should change as she goes, you know, further along in the story. So let's take a look as to what we can do. The first one should be easy because there's not much change from the first one, I gotta say. All I gotta do on this first one is I'm going to duplicate that, and up, I'm gonna up this, and I'm just going to paint all this stuff this cream color. I'll bring back the black once I've figured this stuff out here. But what I want, of course, is I want to get that arm down, right? So I'm just gonna paint over these areas here with this cream color, and I've got that arm down here. So the next thing I'm gonna do, so that's my layer with my sort of draw over on this character. And I'm just going to now draw in, you know, the the clothes, you know, as they would look if this person. So I've got some bunching up in this elbow area here, and then I've got probably long sleeves here, and this is just showing her in her military uniform, like that. Not bad. Okay. And then I'm just gonna, again, the hand is, I'm just gonna indicate it more than anything else, but here's a pistol of some sort that, well, actually, it'll probably have the sights closer to the left because I'm seeing a bit of the back of this hand right here, which means you'll see more of that side of the firearm. And maybe there's yet another section down here. But yeah, there we go. So I've drawn out at least the outline here. There's always little things that you can add for wrinkly stuff right there. And let me make a new layer, and I'm just gonna put in the sort of, what do you call it, the little dots on there. So I think they're under effects brushes I've got here. Alright, let's see how big these are. Let me shrink it a little. Shrink it some more. What? I guess the pattern is gonna stay this. If I could change that pattern, that'd be great. Let's see here. It's not spacing around this. I forget. Let's see. It's under texture, perhaps? Yeah, it's scale. I can shrink that scale. Cool. Now let's do it. Yeah, closer. Good, good, good. All right. So just kind of giving myself a little bit of a, you could just go gray. You don't have to use this dot pattern. I'm just trying to match it. Uh, and then I'm gonna come back, cut into it so that my silhouette reads. And I've also got the military stripe here, so I'm just gonna cut into that as well. So now this should work for this character. Trying to figure out where I have my line. Ah, there it is. That's the layer with the line stuff on there. Okay. I'm just gonna hide that, and this will be my. You may want to colorize, Control U, colorize it so that it kind of matches this cream color. But all in all, not bad. And oh, I have sort of this gray, so let me just paint that in then. Okay. So away from those other brushes, back into a painting brush. And this is the layer with the tone on there. All right. I'm just gonna paint in the flesh tone here. And whatever this gun is. Cool. So now it kind of fits, and my character at least has a starting pose and a starting uniform on there. So that first one is considered done for now. Right? I could always come back and mess with it so that it looks better, like clean up some of this line work, etc. Um, I can put a little shadow down there or something. Just thicken up the lines that are kind of pointing down more. Sure, right. But that's all in the details, not there. Mess with this stuff all day long. Okay, so now my second um my second character here. I'm just gonna hide those and just leave this first one to group one, right? Group two is starting off with the mannequin body, right? And that head, right? That's from the first one. So let's mess around and play. Okay, so um I'm thinking light armor, right? And space armor in this instance. It's a very Mass Effect universe. It's a very maybe like even an astronaut kind of situation, right? Um, yeah, let's make her an astronaut here. So, what would that look like? So I would just paint over a lot of this hair first. Because as an astronaut, she would probably be wearing like an astronaut's cap. I just want to start off here by getting rid of some of this, and still indicating where the top of the head is, but this stuff here is going to be drawn over at this point. And then I'm just going to draw over it with black. So first off, I want to, indicate, okay, this is where the ears are. And if she had a cap on, what would that, how high would that go? Might want to come out, maybe come back in, like so. It's like you still want her to feel like it fits, but yeah, I might have put too much too much of the top of the cap on her. So maybe it should go down a little bit more. Let's take this stuff out. Even though the cap may seem like it'd be a round thing, you probably want some piping and some stitching on the side just to indicate the side plane of the head, and then on the top here you can have whatever kind of cool pattern that an astronaut would have. But I don't know, I'm just going to emphasize some of this and probably have something here and then something maybe coming down the middle here. Very basic for that. And then of course, as an astronaut, she would also have some kind of a attachment on the collar area for the space helmet. So now I'm just going to draw in the space helmet collar. And I got to keep in mind, like, I'm looking up at her, right? So the curvature of this collar is very important to show that you're looking up at her, but then there's this dip here down the center line of her rib cage that would raise that, or lower here and then raise it up towards the collar. There's probably some kind of I don't know, just spacey stuff, and and of course like a helmet thing of some sort. I'm not sure. Not sure if we want to go with 50s sci-fi or if we want to go with something a bit more realistic, but in this instance, I'm just going to go with like a 50s sci-fi, which is basically a bubble dome. This this was definitely used in something like the Prometheus movie, so maybe I should look that up to give me some ideas. So let's look up Prometheus space suit. I'm looking this stuff up so that it can give me some ideas that I would otherwise not have had. Um, Not necessarily to copy it one for one, but definitely to help me along
the way because I don't know everything. I definitely don't know everything. This is really cool. You could see the side, how far back that goes. That's really neat. Um, Never realized that part. Like right here, how far back does that go? Um, this part's really cool too. Yeah, I may want to copy this image and just have it handy, off to the side as a piece of reference. At this stage, I'm I'm using it as a touchstone. Here's the drawing bits. Do like how the armor kind of ends around there, and then there's a shoulder piece. So, and it would be rounded off. It wouldn't have these sharp corners here. So you would want to bevel some of that. And maybe instead of drawing a little pattern there, I do like the shoulder armor. It feels light and feels like she can still maneuver while wearing it, so that's very cool. And I like that there's like a little added detail piece over the top of that, so that there's two sections here. That's very cool. And they've got a way to show how this thing is attached, and that is through some astronaut looking straps here that go underneath the armpit. What I'll what I'll probably do is I'll have like a shorter piece come off of that. And this is kind of where the chest goes. But we'll kind of do this like in terms of like maybe like a uniboob kind of situation where they just kind of go across from each other. Very similar to how I illustrated this here. Do like the idea of maybe having a wrinkle on the abdomen area there. So this is all kind of cloth, and then maybe we'll have the belt here. How that's a pretty high belt line, so we can try that. And then we'll do like a cool pattern. Like they've got all this tubing there, but you can do something similar. But they don't have any armor on the leg and thigh region. I think we can probably do that. Gotta make ours a little bit different. So a little bit of a thigh armor on the side here. And because this is kind of where the leg bends, there's going to be a cut line here. So maybe we can see that it's two separate pieces, whereas this one would be more the side of the hip, and the other one would be more along the thigh. there, and you kind of round it off. So, and you make it pop out of the silhouette line a bit more. Tuck that other one underneath. And I think we can have sort of knee pad in case she falls. And whatever is like a knee shin guard here, so she can have something there to kind of protect her. I don't want this stuff to break too far away from the original silhouette here. Part of the reason why is you do want the leg to start tapering down. Um, if you if you make the feet that much wider and it can get out of control real quick, and then she'll look like she's running around with giant boots or uh, some space shoes. And yeah, we can thicken up the soles because they kind of are boots. It's just yeah, I just didn't want them to be like big, heavy, clunky boots. There's a strap here as well. And then I'm drawing now. Yeah, let me lighten up the yeah, let me lighten this drawing up so that I don't get it confused. Like I still need to draw these parts, right? So yeah, if I have knee pads here, that knee pad area should actually overlap the thigh armor. So it's actually a good point to bring in there. And then there's a plane change here that I notice. And from here, cut in to show what the side of this thing looks like. To flare out a little bit. This part can get kind of straight and chiseled, and then the back part kind of maybe rounds out a bit more. And when we get to our boots, got this strap thing here, and then got this boot thing here. There's the heel. And our big astronaut boot soles here. So I'm reminded that this area is cloth, so I'm just gonna add a little bit of bunching up of the cloth right there. And then we've got our So I kind of want to keep the design language pretty consistent across the board. You notice how there's like a vertical stripe here, so maybe we can have that on the space armor as well. A bit of a vertical striping. And of course, we've got our armor off to the side. This is where all the thinking part happens. Once you get this part down, everything else is fairly easy to do. I have the hand on the hip there, but I don't know. Maybe I can do it. Just cut out that piece and put it in there after. Uh, but before I do that, I want to figure out if she's wearing space gloves or something, right? So, again, cloth here, bunches up. Oh, I like how they do this here, where there's like a different material where it kind of bunches. So that's a good idea that we can take from that. That makes sense. So yeah, so maybe within the cloth, there's two types of materials, one that's more flexible and one that is a bit more rigid, right? We've got our armor here. And this is where you have room to maybe attach like a readout device or something. Some kind of a tech item. I do like how they made those gloves here with like little pads and things like that. So I think I'm gonna take that as well. Meanwhile, there's like more flexible areas. And yeah, there's probably like an elbow pad of some sort back here. Even though I have sort of like this cut line right there that's similar to theirs, maybe we can play around with this line a little bit more, make it, I don't know. Yeah, finesse it a little bit so that it feels like it's conforming to the gap, right? And of course, maybe there's cool logos and patches. We could figure out a logo real quick. Let's go bonker and then round. Like that. And then of course our gun, I don't know, gun could either stay the same or get upgraded into a different type of gun. Let's change it up a little bit. Maybe it gets a little larger out here. And maybe it's asymmetrical. It's like a little doodad out there, like a sensor. And this part here, I don't know. Since we're going that 50 sci-fi, maybe it's like a ray gun. Have like some big glowy thing here. Like the glowy thing here is like a little indicator, like set to stun or something. I don't know. All right, so now we have this sort of light armor infantry. You want to make sure you have some thickness to this armor. This stuff here. Just want a little bit of side plane to some of this armor. I will be looking for stuff like that. Like, is there thickness to your gear and your armor plating? Or does it just look like she's wearing paper? Right, so I want to continue this vertical line. This is a very Star Wars kind of. Okay, and now, of course, we've got our wrinkles. I wanted to bring in some of this striping, right? So it'll wrinkle along with this cloth here where the crunch happens, and then we'll have this. I don't know. It's a little bit. Maybe it widens out here. This is where we can have a change up in color on the uniform. Starts off like it's a stripe, but it's more like a fork, and there's like a cod piece of some sort there. Let me see, anything on the sides here? We've got that. I'm not sure if we need any more patterns. You can actually overdo all this stuff by accident. Alright, so let me, now that I have all that, I'm gonna hide my body mannequin then, and I'm gonna paint in my yellow background color here. This brush, just making sure it's on its own layer beneath all this stuff. I'll eventually bring back that other hand, but for some reason this yellow, oh, it's a little darker because that's the skin color. Yeah, okay. It's just whatever's filled in is yellow. All the other stuff is a lighter cream color. Silly me. Let's see. Out of all this line work that I drew in, am I able to make a selection? Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah. Now I'm just gonna paint in this lighter cream color now. Perfect, perfect. Oh, that worked out so well. Couldn't have done it better. So, save me some time having to go in and select everything. Perfect. Something like that. Right, and then I should actually reselect that. And I'm gonna make a new layer. I'm gonna bring back this drop shadow here. Hello? Yeah, cool. See there? Let's bring back this drop shadow. Erase back out. So it looks like the Acme, whole portal spot. Now it's supposed to be a shadow. Well, that's a good start for this uniform. Just gonna paint in now my, since I already did the dots, or I could do gray, but yeah. Whoa. Are the dots all big again? That's weird. I thought it would have remembered it to be a little smaller. Yeah. Well, that's too refined. Okay, here we go. Perfect. What I'm gonna do is gonna leave the stripes brighter, the logo brighter. I'm going to leave the metal maybe brighter for now. Yeah, having kind of a two-tone separation really helps. Um, oh, let me just erase out here, clean this up a bit, and let me think about it. Want to think about, so I want the bottom half of this character to be lighter, or do I want the bottom half of this character to be darker? Because maybe the shin armor could be a different type of metal, so that I want the straps to be lighter. Just like that. As I clean that up. Pretty cool. I think I want at least the feet should be darker, right? And then the side here. Maybe I could keep the middle stripe to be brighter. This just becomes a pattern at some point. It's like light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. That kind of thing. Because light can only contrast from the dark, and the dark can only bring out the light. So you just kind of want this like abstract pattern going back and forth, right, between light and dark values onto your character's costume. That's cool. And yeah, maybe the side of here, the side armor here could be darkened. Yeah, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna have to. Unless if we figure out a pattern of some sort, that might be kind of cool. Like, say for example, if this, pull this right into this middle stripe right here, that could work. And then that middle stripe is the continuity that runs all the way down here. could work. There, light, dark, light, dark. And what about the space helmet or space, I don't know, cap? And of course, the neck would also be wrapped with this stuff. Yeah. And then there's striping, of course, so probably lighten up where the tubing is here. And then lighten up this middle section right there. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Last, maybe this, this cloth there, right? And then I think what I want to do is I want an even darker section. I'm gonna shrink the scale of this. Want like an even darker section around the armpit and these joint spaces, right? On here. Perfect. So that way that's like a flexible area. Maybe we'll have some of that on the side here, just so that we know that that's she's going to be flexing side to side. Cool. Yeah, let me go back to the line work layer and bring that out again using just my drawing brush. Cool. I really like this for my my light armor section here. So as you can see, like, you can change up the hair, you can maybe there's aspects of her character that can get changed along the way, right? Like maybe she's a lot more grizzled by the very end of this you know uh, section here on the right. But right now she's still pretty pretty clean, pretty Prometheus-y with the armor design here, which I think is pretty cool. Works out. Let me pause here and then I'll come back and finish the rest. All right. Resuming. I was looking at some concept art from Wreck-It Ralph here, and this seems like a pretty cool Space Marine female armor. So I'm definitely going to use that as just some reference as far as like the feel of what I want to get out of it, you know, which is like football armor, shoulder pads and maybe large gloves that are armored up and large boot shin things here. Here's where we can start thickening stuff up on this character. And but before we proceed with that, there's just a few things I have with this this previous armor that I'm still a little bothered by, and they're just little nitpicks. Let me show you an example of what I mean by that. Let me get onto the layer where I have my line work. All right, so the things that I have a nitpick on would be, let me go black here. The bubble dome just feels very fragile, and I think the way we can actually remedy that is if we have some type of mechanism behind our character here, that, she'll never need to look behind her, right? So maybe there's more to the back of this. As we saw here, right? The back of that helmet is actually quite large. So perhaps we can have elements of that here as well, where the back of the helmet goes much further than we initially anticipated here. Right, so we can actually have little mechanisms, pieces back there. And then, of course, we would see through this glass, right? So this is where some draftsmanship and perspective needs to come in, where I'm thinking about the ovalness of the back of that, and then on the opposite end of here, there would also be something to mimic this diagonal here, right? And this would have sort of an inner section here, right? That would be, and we don't have to get super detailed, but and in fact, we can darken that section or whatever, but that was one thing that I thought would actually help improve our character design here. So, for example, I'm just coloring this part back in with sort of a solid armor piece on the back of it. As silly as it looks going this high up, this is our sort of cartoony exaggeration aspects of it, right? Like that. And then on top of this, on the layer where we have this dots, let's go and find our dot layer here and lower the amount of dots there, and then we'll shrink our brush size now. Oh, really? Come on, even lower. Yeah, that's it now. Just again, I don't really want to detail out the inside there, but what I do want is to show that there is something behind. That looks a lot more balanced to me now, whereas beforehand it kind of looked a little funky. Cool. Yeah, better. All right. So this last part, we now. Oh wait, actually, sorry. There's always something, isn't there? This part here, I don't normally want to add in any color at this stage, but I thought that this little space gun might actually need it, because we were talking before about possibly having like a little glowy mechanism here, sort of as a indicator. Let's see. Oh, not an eraser, but brush. Brush. Cool. And yeah, perhaps we can just use this mechanism to kind of indicate what power level, we're going to be firing at. And I'm just gonna have a little bit of that continue on down here, like so. And now, yeah, now it kind of feels like a space gun. Cool. We could have little blinky lights here and there as well. Little aspects of hints of tech little blinky lights, right? Uh, I don't know. You could do this all day long. All right, back to it. Space Marine, big buff armor, big bold buff armor, right? So here's our head, and here's our layer that we have to indicate her body proportions. You know, we could have her get bigger or more buff, but let's start off with normal, what we indicated in the other body types, as far as her default body proportions, and then we'll be able to shift it once we have the character design further in. And do all the drawing on the new layer. I'm just gonna lower the opacity of that. That way I know what I'm adding to it. And yeah, I do like the sort of football armor nature of this. So, and I do like how layered they get with this. So let's just try it. If I if we want to change it later, we can. But I like how, there's this overlap here. And again, you kind of want to round out some of these bits uh, as it gets closer to the body. And yeah, this sort of three-section shoulder armor is kind of cool. Again, I want to thicken up bits of this armor, and that, and then put in a bit of a cast shadow beneath this so that I can tell that they are indeed three separate armor pieces, like that. And then she could have a helmet, but I think we're gonna go no helmet for now. And maybe instead of like an officer's uniform underneath, I do like the idea of there being some kind of like a jumpsuit instead underneath this. So something filled out with this black. I like how squared out some of this stuff looks. Yeah, just trying to figure out what this shape would look like going to the other side there, with some thickness as well. Some thickness here. And then down. And of course, we've got our chest armor now. Um, whereas that chest armor on the spacesuit was rather petite before. Perhaps this time we can go a little thicker with it. Let me draw down the center line first, just so that I have an idea as to the shape of it, and then we can figure out how how it fits together. So I do want it to kind of wrap itself around this rib cage. I'm sure that's what the Wreck-It Ralph people were thinking as well. And I do want it to be one one piece, not like two separations. I do want like this area to kind of feel like it's flattened and maybe mimic a little bit of our space suit, and we are maybe, yeah, we do still belong to the same faction at the end of the day here. And maybe this is where we can really differ from the design um, language of the Wreck-It Ralph's stuff, right? We did establish this logo, so perhaps we can have this logo here along the chest. Maybe not down the middle, but on the side here. There's faction. And there does need to be, like, how should I say it? Like a hole that isn't flush right up against the armpit. Like she needs like a gap here so that she can move her arms around, right? Again, these are the areas that will probably see the most, uh, you know, movement and wear. And so you want a more flexible material to be in there around that armpit section. And it may just be kind of a rubberized accordion style, much like the jumpsuit. It's just a extension of that. So, and this is also something kind of cool about space armor is you'll need to have access to things like I don't know, you want to put in the battery or plug it into some wall socket to charge it and stuff like that. So what that will do is you'll have these panels in here that are technically, removable, and that really sells space tech, you know, when you have elements like that. Maybe it doesn't come this far out. There's like that. Cool. And this logo is a little weird because it's touching the side there, so gotta fix it. Shrink it a little bit. Make it a little bit more narrow. Scoot it up slightly. Like that. Cool. Perfect. And you got your abdomen. The abdomen's tricky because the abs need to be flexible. Otherwise, how would you I don't know, do a sit up or get up off of a chair but then at the same time you still want it to be plated and stuff. So a lot of times, the simple solution here would be having some kind of a overlapping plates like an insect would have for an exoskeleton. So perhaps we can use that as a start. But at the same time, yeah, you don't want it to bow out too much either. You want it to kind of narrow itself down. So let me let me draw the overall shape I want first, and then we'll do the segmentation. Perfect. Okay. So yeah, so maybe it is kind of bug-like. I'm just gonna section it off and just make sure it kind of rounds off too. Those sharp corners would, if somebody were to actually wear it, it would be really uncomfortable. Um, and then all these segmented pieces would be attached to some kind of like, I don't know, like something where you can attach the buckle to. And this is where we can bring elements of the anatomy back in. That. And then the space cod piece. All right. Um, yeah, maybe a continuation of our other suit. You kind of want a bit of a V shape, I think, to continue this idea of it being kind of sleek and almost aerodynamic looking. But then what I like is she's got like grenades and stuff now, so maybe yeah, this is an opportunity here for us to have some cool attachment pieces. I always kind of like this thing in Star Wars. They have like this cylinder that's attached sideways, and I think it's a communicator or something for a stormtrooper. But that's a very Star Wars shape to have on your space armor here. And this is a grenade, in case you're wondering. And the other side would not have the same cylinder thing, it would just have belt. And then we have our cod piece, kind of similar, but this one would be armored and protected. And you don't really want to call too much attention to it, so you may want to, I don't know, kind of conform it, but don't call attention to it. So let's do the sides first, and then I think that's what this artist did. This artist like focused on the side armor here first, and then whatever was left over would be the cod piece armor. I do like that shape they had there. And then yeah, whatever's left over here would be Yeah, you don't want to call too much attention to this. It's not where you want people to be staring. Cool little details might be little rivets as well, where you got to think of it like the armor is a rigid piece that is somehow attached to a flexible cloth that maybe has, it could be made of carbon fiber or something, futury, but for all we know, it's. This could be two pieces as well. And if it is indeed two pieces, it would have little rivets here. Here's where I can kind of cheat the stuff that I was talking about before, and maybe this is a bit more thick. Maybe there's boosters on it. I'm not sure. Because I know before I was saying, like, yeah, you don't want to make the bottom part of that too, but this is more of an aerodynamic thing, whereas now we're just armored to the teeth. So there's a lot of thick cloth here that all this stuff's attached to. Again, it's like football. Trying to figure out how all this stuff fits together is an art form unto itself. Like some space tubing. A little thruster there. Maybe not right down the middle. Maybe off to the side there. And then now we've got whatever foot stuff we have down here, which it looks like what they did was they just gave her big chunky boots, which is cool. It's gotta be somewhat flexible, but it's made out of blocks, basically. Blocks. They almost look like Birkenstocks, like sandals. I don't know if I like that, but So now I've got to figure out what this looks like from a front view, which is a small thing attached to a large thing that has kind of a, I don't know, it's like a police badge shape, and then it rounds out at the bottom. This part, of course, is all wrinkly cloth, and then we've got our big chunky armor plate, which is again kind of a T shape. And we're not going to see much of the back there, but we might see some of this, the, the engine tubes. It's going to be smaller than what I drew. Shrink that. Move it up. Then rotate. We'll just cover all this stuff up. Whatever armor piece here, and then we've got our boots. Face here. For a steel toe. And then of course our big, whatever this heel and this part here is on the bottom. Big boots. To bring back some of this vertical shin stripe as well. And then I like how she did this like skinny and then big thick ones for the gauntlets. So, good idea. As a continuation of our segmented glove. Except her hands look so much bigger now because there's all this padding on the outside. And maybe she doesn't have like a ray gun anymore. Now it's like a weird BFG kind of weapon. I don't know what it looks like. I'm just designing the top of it, but I just know it's gotta look chunky and rather large. Alright. So now I'm coming in and I'm just blocking in that material that I indicated earlier. This sort of flexible, let's just call it flexible Kevlar or whatever this might be. Could be Kevlar mixed with, oh, I don't know, carbon fiber. You know, whatever sounds good. But yeah, blocking in your dark shapes is gonna be key here. It's like all just a mixture of light against dark and dark against light, just for the sake of contrast. That dark material fills in the gaps nicely. It helps take care of a lot of the stuff that you don't want to figure out, which is like, I don't know, like the joints, and like you don't necessarily need to make a mechanical. Gaps here. I think kind of needed on this weapon here as well. Cool. I like it. Maybe the logo isn't bright, but it's now dark. And also her haircut. Her haircut may have changed from the time here, right? So let's give her a more military cut. Maybe more buzzed. And yeah, maybe it goes off to one side or something. We'll find out. Indicate something without drawing it yet. Like that. Okay, now I'm gonna draw on this layer. Maybe a little bit of a flare on the front, Zarya style, and then we'll go into sort of party mohawk. Perhaps there's a scar. Who knows? She may have gotten a scar since our time at the beginning, right? In which case, maybe this eye's a little bit cataract. It's bionic, perhaps. And I don't know, another indication that she may have had some history, like I had mentioned before. Like we had our characters uh, with the missing hands. So I don't know, maybe she's got a missing arm. This, so I'm just indicating, without designing it too much, but I'm just indicating a bionic arm here. Got like, I don't know, missile launchers here or something. I don't know. What would be kind of neat is if this arm was holding the helmet. Let's just do that. Just indicate where the hand would be, and then this is grabbing onto some kind of a helmet of some sort. Got some breathing tubes. I mean, it's all really based off of the Stormtrooper helmet at the end of the day, isn't it? A lot of these types of Space Marine characters. Trying to use black to cover up whatever missing information I have on my details. Just wanted to indicate it for now, and then we'll figure it out later. But yeah, this hand is definitely could be like a bionic hand. And I'm just indicating for now. I don't want black right next to black, so I'm gonna just make this gap here indicating the sort of the pistons of the forearm there. Just gonna minimize that. This will have my missiles. Seems like it needs three, doesn't it? Something like that. Yeah, this little grenade thing, what really sells it is this little top piece with the ring, but it could be a different thing, not a ring in the future. But that's what really sells the idea of a grenade. That little top section up there. Ooh, I really don't know what this gun looks like. I just know that I want sort of V shapes going down to it, and I know that I want it fairly large. I'm gonna erase away to get me a better silhouette. Cool. I think all that indicates some pretty good ideas. I'd like to now add tone and call this a night. So, I mean, this is addictive because I'm actually starting to have fun now, finally. Once you get sort of towards the end phase here, it starts getting a lot more fun. All I have to do now is just, because all the thinking's done. Now I just have to render and make sure that the metal feels like metal. It's kind of got chrome aspects to the that bicep right there. Uh, Need to erase away here to kind of indicate my wrinkles. Right. Same thing here. Little wrinkles. This is my neck section right there. Probably want to get some darker shadows on my boot section here, especially the bottom of the boot. That really makes it feel like it's seated at this point. Yeah, but overall, I think this is a successful design. Um, we've got our sort of space marine football. Uh, I don't know what she's grabbing onto, but maybe one of the tubes on the side there. But yeah, just gotta clean it up a little bit, and we're ready to start adding tone. All right, just my head with it. Yeah, okay. So as we've established before, all the space around it is this kind of light. Oof. Oh yeah. Bring the reference all the way up to the top. This is my tone. Okay, cool. Just got to make sure layer management's there. So yeah, you want to apply the tone beneath your line work. Sorry, I forgot I still have some remnants of my head here, so this is where I have to be careful. Because the face is actually on this layer that has the tone. But yeah, I just want to fill it in for now, and then I want to clean it up. It's important to have the figure itself, like the silhouette of the figure, be slightly darker than the tone around it. It helps you to really see the shape of your design a lot better. So yeah, you want to make sure you get this part right. Okay, so this is the tone, but before I do that, I want to see how very little I need to do. Shift I, and then coming back to the tone layer and picking this darker tone and seeing how much yeah. Ah, I missed that toe. It's okay. There's a gap in the toe, so what? Okay, be careful. All right, here. Cool, cool. All right, so all I did was I kind of missed that toe area. So now come back, fill in this toe area with this darker tone, and immediately I've got, you know, um, her popping out from the background here. So now my question is, which sections to apply that sort of dot pattern? Let's try it. I wonder if I applied it to all and then or maybe this is just shading at this point. Could be just shading. Yeah, could just be shading. That I know this part would be in the shadow. Be this part. Would be the side plane here. That side plane would be in the shadow. All this part of the firearm. Have some shadow here. So what we're establishing now is that the armor itself is fairly light in value, but we're indicating all the areas that would be in shadow, all the side and planes on the right hand side here. It might not actually hit that, but there's the right side part of all the arm stuff there. And then this part of the shoulder pads. Yeah. Don't really want to mess up her face too much with all that shadow, but maybe there's a little bit there. That's pretty good. Now the bottom parts. Sort of want small segmentation going on here, so there we go. That might get some shadow on it even though it's a top plane. This helmet. Mostly want the helmet in the shadow too, just because, I don't know, it's not completed on its design. That looks pretty cool. Ah, I didn't do the ground shadows there. Maybe I should. Erase out part of this. Maybe, I don't know, there might be glowy parts to this. Like on the legs, it would make sense to have some glowy parts, because that kind of lights your path as you move, right? Alright, so now I gotta come in and take the cast shadow. Oh, come on. Wrong brush. Let's go with pressure round, black. Overall, the change up in gear is pretty fun on this character. Um, the assignment is actually just to do a before and after on each of your characters. In here, I kind of did 3 states of one character, having that other one on the left. But basically, what you would be doing is creating, two states. So ignore the one on the left here, right? Yeah, ignore that one. You would be creating 2 states, sort of at the beginning of the story, at the end of the story. Maybe she goes out exploring at the beginning of the story and then becomes a soldier for the rebellion at the end of the story. I don't know. I just made this up just now, right? Let me zoom in. As you can see too, yeah, we've got quite a bit of detail, but and a little bit of tone. If I wanted to take this further, I can, for portfolio sakes. But you could still tell it's the same character. It's just she's gone through a lot more stuff on this figure on the right, and the one on the left is a bit sleeker, that kind of thing. So you want to create some contrast between the beginning and the end. And then you would be doing this for not just your protagonist, but you would do 2 more for your antagonist and do 2 more for your wildcard character, right? If you think that your design is already that character either at the beginning or at the end of the story, then you could just do 1 more, right? But again, I'm trying to train you all in the aspects of thinking about this, okay, light, medium, heavy armor, right? For this exercise. So giving me 2 additional drawings will be definitely better, because then we can actually help critique it, to see like a progression, in the character armor class and gear, you know. And I know this isn't as much of an emotional change as it is a cosmetic change, but you know, people playing this game for, 5 hours in, they're gonna expect to get some reward, and maybe this medium armor will be that, and then they play the game another 5 hours, so 10 hours in, they want to see their character undergo some kind of augmentation, some kind of change, right? And of course, we can hide the ref, hide the evidence, and then yeah, I'm just gonna paint in all the rest of this white section to be kind of this cream color, and we're done, for at least for the demo. The assignment, I would probably go through another 2 to 4 hours to get my two other types of characters in here, right? Um, Probably for next week's demo, I'll do something maybe to show like a progression in age. The armor is the easy one. Probably do the age one. The age one, you're gonna have to actually, you know, design different body types, right? So here we go. All right, thanks all. Bye.